welcome to Talk About here on Shaw TV North Island. Thanks for tuning in. I'm dressed up today because it's a special open house here in the Shaw TV North Island studio in Campbell River. And we have a special guest. We got Mayor Walter Jakeway. Thank you very much, sir. And we have a studio audience too. So we may have some questions at the end if we can work that out as well. But we're not going to get too political today. I think we're going to do some personal stuff. Well, let's start with your history. I think you were here in Campbell River for a long time.
Yeah, Eunice and I moved here in June '76, and I was a young engineer working at Elk Falls Mill.
Yeah.
Started there in 1st of June, way back then. So for those that have lived here a long time, we were here about a month before the junior high burned down. So where Phoenix School is, it's Phoenix because it came out of the ashes of the junior high. So if you didn't know that little bit of trivia, that's why it's called Phoenix. Huh. And it wasn't much, there was an arson fire. I don't think they ever caught the arsonist, but it wasn't much of a loss.
Insurance was a good thing.
Oh, the Phoenix School is far better than the other one.
Yeah, yeah. So you were an engineer in the pulp mill.
Yeah, so I was an engineer from '76 till '82, and then there was one of their many recessions, and I had a choice of leaving or going into maintenance. So they were able to, the maintenance crews were willing to accept me as a maintenance relief foreman for 7 months, and I became a regular foreman, looking after a millwright crew for 4 years, and then various other crews.
Didn't you go to Mackenzie or something?
And then in '91, after working my way up through the paper machine maintenance at Elk Falls, they sent me to Mackenzie in '91 to be the engineering maintenance superintendent at the pulp mill in Mackenzie. And there's two reasons why you go to Mackenzie in the pulp industry when you're in a multi-site function. Either you've been bad or you're there to learn. So hopefully they sent me there to learn.
I've been to Mackenzie. And they have a water problem. If the Lake Williston gets low, they have to shut the mill down.
Right, so when I was there, they actually put in piping on the bottom of the lake to try to fix that problem. Huh. But Mackenzie's not a place that you really want to stay. I think it's, so after, I was supposed to go there for 2 years and come back here as maintenance boss. And during that time, this mill's ownership changed, so they kind of abandoned me there. For my last 2 years up there, I commuted to Vancouver every 10 days to take a master's degree in business at Simon Fraser on weekends. So I was away Friday, Saturday, Sunday, going to school 41 times.
Wow. Back
and forth.
Yeah.
Learned, my school bus was a 737.
But you did come back to the mill here, did you?
Yeah. So I went from Mackenzie, eventually got the boot from there, and ended up with McMillan Bodell in Port Alberni, where I was engineering maintenance manager, and then I became operations manager eventually. And then after 8 years of that, we came back here. And wisely, I'd kept my house. When I first was here, I had the thrill of building my own house, and I really built it. And I couldn't give it up. And we knew Campbell River was the place to retire. So I came back here for 4 more years and then retired.
Did you retire as the mill manager here?
No, I came back here in a senior engineering role.
Okay.
I was able to step off of the manager turntable and have a normal life for a while.
Actually, last night after council, and we're recording this on a Wednesday, I talked with a fellow who had been in the mill for a long time. And I said, well, Walter was the mill manager. He said, no, he was only an engineer.
Yeah, Walter was actually an engineer and a foreman. I know who you were talking to. He was sitting in the crowd. I recognized him quite well.
Sorry.
People may think it's wonderful being a mill manager and having that responsibility, but it's a 24-hour a day, 7-day thing. If the phone rings 2 times in the middle of the night, they're not phoning to tell you that things are going well. Yeah. They're only phoning to tell you that it's gone bad. Yeah. And they can ruin an awful lot of sleep. And you may make a lot of money, but you earn it because it's total immersion.
And then you have to deal with City Hall when you're a mill manager.
But City Hall's easy compared to being a mill manager because you don't have to make a profit. You only have to try to control costs. You do have to tolerate a lot of craziness that doesn't happen in private industry. But yeah, you don't have to make a profit.
I mean, it's difficult for the mill manager to deal with City
Hall.
Oh,
I see, yes. Obviously, the Elk Falls people had a real problem with City Hall because Elk Falls eventually died. Yeah. And I did go do a tour there about a month ago, and I thought it was going to be more emotional than it was because it has been devastated.
Yeah, they've got trees growing out of ceilings.
They do have, and they've removed most of the paper machines and all that equipment that we used to work on and spend hours and hours trying to make it run really well,
Yeah.
it's kind of wrecked
So just let it go.
and removed and
Yeah.
destroyed.
Yeah.
But eventually it's going to become flat.
Yeah.
It's going to get
Yeah.
completely down.
Well, you mentioned in there in passing a death, and that's a segue for me to ask you about your open heart surgery and what that did to your personal outlook.
Okay,
on
so
things.
in 2001, while I was in Alberni, my wife and I did a bus tour in England, and a 15-day bus tour. And about day 5, I got really ill. I used to be 180 pounds, 6'1", the yuppie of all yuppies, jog, swim, everything every day.
And socially conservative?
I think always. Certainly fiscally conservative. Anyway, I got really ill on day 5. I did not want to go into the British medical system, and my wife said I should. I thought I was having a heart attack. She said it was a gallstone or something. But anyway, she eventually bombed me on Advil. You take enough Advil, you can actually survive through anything. And I ended up back in Canada at the end of the bus tour. And then they spent months and months trying to figure it out. And I had a virus, mycoplasma virus that I caught. It's actually an African thing I caught somehow. And eventually, then the symptoms all went away. So 2002, things looked good. And they said, no, it'll be back. Well, by 2006, I was gaining, still yuppie, jog, run, do all that stuff. No energy, gaining 5 pounds a week. Joined Weight Watchers, gained 110 pounds, even on Weight Watchers. They thought I was cheating. I was eating lettuce and crackers, but it was all water. And then 2 specialists got it wrong. They thought I had an eating disorder, but a doctor here in town, a gastroenterologist, Dr. Mahoney, got it right and said, you have he'd seen it in Africa or when he was with the Roman Catholic Church, and said, you have constrictive pericarditis, which means there's a bag around the heart. That's like a saran wrap bag that the heart wiggles around in, and the virus was inside the bag.
Ooh.
So, and also in my liver. And so by the end of 2007, they split me open and went in, slowed the heart down and went in and removed the bag, or 60% of it, in a 6.5-hour operation. And I was able to be restored anyway, heart-wise. So they didn't actually open the heart, but they went and scraped the outside and removed this thing off of it. But I do have 4th-stage cirrhosis of the liver caused by heart failure, and 4th is the worst. It's a 3-4 stage, so I'm not doing well that way. And I still got lots of water on board.
So you probably don't drink coffee?
You know what, you drink, but you just know you're gonna, if you take too many pills, you can lose 15 pounds, but it'll all be back in 4 days, right? So it's, you don't want to punish your liver because your function's less, so you don't do anything to abuse it.
But before we started recording here, we were chatting a bit, and you said that was a life-changing experience.
Yeah, when when you're 2 months from dead, and they've told you probably have liver cancer, or you're lying on the table and you know that in 10 seconds you're going to go through those doors and they're going to cut you open on a table, you faced your own mortality, and you change, and you never change back.
And how did you
And
change?
I was much more black and white before that, politically and everything.
Theology.
Like it was theology, politically, business, everything was black and white. I am all gray now. Like you value life tremendously when you face dying.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in our society have faced that, and you can empathize and you can sympathize, but unless you've done it yourself, you don't know what they're talking about. It's bad. People are facing it all the time. And last weekend there was a talk in town on dialysis. And my daughter works as a clinician in the clinic, the renal unit at the Jubilee. And she's the nurse transitioning into being a specialist nurse. And you see what those people have to go through. And once in a while, people come up to us, Eunice and myself in town, and say, oh, we saw your daughter. Well, we know why, because she's not allowed to tell who's there, but they tell us we saw your daughter. We know it wasn't in Campbell River. Right? But for people to be traipsing back and forth to Cumberland, Nanaimo, Victoria, 2 and 3 times a week and have their blood washed and wrung out, they get worn out. And they're facing death, you know, unless they get a transplant, and the transplants are not that successful, certainly not yet, those folks are facing a terrible situation. And we need to somehow make it better here, that they don't have to also traipse back and forth.
Did that contribute to your decision to go into local government politics?
I didn't like what I was seeing. I saw an awful lot of money being wasted, and I saw a lot of really bad decisions. There's a way to do management decisions that doesn't mean fumbling around. You go in, you do a decision. There's actually a science of decision analysis, and you can actually get it right the first time, each time if you do it right. But you also got to listen, right? You got to listen to the people, and then incorporate it in, and then explain it to all the people that gave you input why you've decided to do what you're doing.
Yeah. Now, when you decided to go into running for mayor,
Right.
were you aware of the Municipal Act in BC and how it governs the voting structures on council?
Not like I am now. Obviously, I've learned a lot. I really haven't been able to achieve anything. The only thing I really achieved was to be able to get 11th Avenue double named as 11th Avenue and Veterans Way. That's the only thing I actually have been able to achieve, other than I learned a lot. And I think I brought the public, last time the election only 30% turnout. Let's hope this November there's way more than 30%. And I've been really open. I mean, probably too much open, but it's time that what went on at the Puzzle Palace, as some people call it, gets exposed, because we got to change it. Our town can do really, really well.
Well, you know, you might think maybe the problem is council, but is also the problem not the Municipal Act, in the sense that in BC anyway, you know, it's the vote of the councillors, 7 councillors, so the 4-3, regardless of where the mayor fits. But down in the United States, we had the city manager on, and he was talking about the American mayoral system, where the mayor is kind of like a chief executive officer.
It's called a strong mayor system, and we have what's called a weak mayor system.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're stuck with that.
We're kind of, at times.
So why are you running again?
Because I haven't been able to achieve what I wanted. The last time around, I said we could lower taxes 20%. Taxes have since gone up 21.4, so we can go down 40.
Okay.
And
well,
I know that seems like
let's
dreamland,
save that for the
and that
fall.
we'll save that for the future. But you know what? We can do a lot better. And we have a lot of poor people in our town, not just old people, but there's working poor who, when they have to pay money, it's a big deal. Like, I'm wealthy, I can pay it, but there's an awful lot of poor people who can't, and they're eating cabbage for lunch or whatever, trying to pay bills. And we got to first of all, quit taking it, and then quit wasting it when we do get it. Like, I know we're talking politics.
Okay.
We weren't supposed to do that.
Well, it's kind of to be expected when you have a politician.
But what I would say for people this election is, if you've got a favorite topic, hold the politicians to account. Say, when are we going to know where the senior center is going, and when are we going to have it? What day?
Yeah, get them on the record in the intervening time.
Hold their feet to the fire. Me too. Like, when? Don't accept wishy-washy answers.
Okay. No more wishy-washy questions either, except one.
Okay.
Mayor says sleep apnea, no joke, tells of harrowing experience.
That's true. Sleep apnea in around 2004.
Page 1 of the Courier on May 2nd.
So between 2001, remember, I was sick, and then I wasn't sick for a while. But during that time, I started waking up in the middle of the night and going, and you go like, you know what? I'm not going to make it, right? And maybe it was a combination of the virus I already had, but the doctor said, you know what? Maybe, or my wife said, she was going on a holiday to France, and I think you had a long pause in your breathing last night. I think you got sleep apnea, and you should go get tested. And then she left and went to France that morning. And I told my daughter, and she goes, I'll be blunt. She said, Dad, I don't think you got the balls to go see the doctor when Mom's away. And she knows how to play with me. So I said, okay, I'm going to go see the doctor before Mom gets back. And of course, away I went, and guess what they found? My daughter knows how to push my buttons too. And it worked. And guess what? They discovered I had sleep apnea. And it wasn't bad, but it was bad enough that it was causing me to have interrupted sleep. The
article released the first page, and I didn't have the second page, but it says it's easy to cure.
It is. There are 2 types of sleep apnea. One is a blockage type sleep apnea that's in the back of your throat, which they surgically can fix. The other one's a wiring or a software problem in your brain. And that's a lot harder. They haven't figured out how to reprogram us yet. So the way to beat it is you wear a little mask on your nose or in your nose, and there's a little air pump that just pumps air under pressure into your nasal system
And
and
that's
into your
what you
breathing.
use now?
And so I have one that I wear I call it my fighter mask. It's actually just over your nose. You can open your mouth and
There's
talk.
got to be a political joke on that, but
And
I can't think of it.
And it just gives a continuous, it's called CPAP, continuous positive air circulation.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
guess what? You don't die from it. But in North America, about 10% of the population have sleep apnea, and only 2% know it. Because it's up to your bed partner to tell you got a problem. You don't know you've stopped breathing.
I might be one of those.
And
It's high
there's if you look at the symptoms, there's several characteristics.
Yeah.
Males, for some reason, get it worse than others. But one of the problems is a lot of your car crashes on highways, especially for long distance drivers, they just fall asleep.
Yeah.
Because they've had a terrible sleep for years, and it's warm, the sun's shining, and they
fatigue,
just
yeah.
drive off the road,
Yeah.
and they crash.
Yeah.
Or they have a heart attack, supposedly, and die in the middle of the night.
Walter, time runs
Yep.
along. There's one thing I want to get to, and that's Campbell River's community spirit.
Yep.
Is that something that pulled you back here? And is it adequate now, or is there things we should do?
Well, I'll give an
how do you feel?
example. My best friend's my wife. My second best friend is actually the site guy for Habitat to build their new duplex on Hilchey. And it's starting within about a
That's
week or so.
Habitat for Humanity.
Habitat for Humanity. One of my other favorites from
Yeah.
before I went into politics. I actually helped led the tear down of the old Willow Point Fire Hall. It used to be the search and rescue building, where the new search and rescue building is. That was in 2005. Habitat's a wonderful organization.
Yeah.
Building houses and selling them to the working poor, interest-free.
Yeah.
You can't lose.
And it's Christian, is it not?
It's got a Christian base to it, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're getting ready to build. I believe
On Hilchey.
on Hilchey. They have a lot there they bought, and the city has since given them another one on Westgate.
Oh, really?
I don't think they've had to spend any money so far, and I think they've got everything.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
amazing.
What do you think about how Campbell River compares with, for example, Mackenzie, or
Well, the fellow from Habitat,
not for Habitat, but just community?
I'm going to compare Courtney to here. This
Sure.
guy is from Courtney. He's the guy that's going around gathering up materials. He says way easier to get donations here than it is to get donations in the Comox Valley.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm a proponent of Metro Mid-Island. I think Courtney, Comox, Cumberland, Campbell River should all think as one. And if we think as one, we have much more bargaining power with other governments.
We could restructure the regional districts
So,
back into one
you know,
big regional.
It should be. It's crazy the way it is. They're both dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, they used to work fairly well, I thought.
Yep. And it's all a case of the people
Yeah.
in it. But we need to think Metro Mid-Island.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's vital. If we're going to win
Yeah.
and compete against the Cowichan Valley or
Yeah.
Okanagan or the North or whatever, we need to think together. We're not little.
I think we have
we're not
people
little
on the roof in
fiefdoms
here.
here. I think they're fixing the roof above us. Either that or it's caving in.
Yeah. Now, are there any questions from the audience? Any comments?
Well, we are, I enjoyed hearing what the mayor had to say. I would love to have a conversation with you off the record. I'm not necessarily thinking that we would be on the same page in terms of the city hall being wasteful or the fact that taxpayers aren't getting their money's worth.
Right.
I guess I'm going to just say this quickly because I have read about the trouble with cities. And there was a study done in the States that said that there's no amount of population size that would be big enough to pay for the aging infrastructure.
Right.
And that in fact people really do not want to pay what it's worth for the cost of everything we've come to associate with the city. And
Yep.
that wasn't the question I was going to ask you at all.
It was a good speech, though. I wish
Well, I
I'd
didn't-
said that.
They're looking for people to run for council, Anyway.
But I'd love to have the conversation
Sure.
because it's interesting.
glad to.
I don't know enough about politics to.
Yep.
So my question was, and I loved what you said before when we were talking, what advice would you have for young people today who are graduating from school in terms of choosing a career or what their next step is?
Right.
That's a good one.
Which is a great week because it's graduation week. This afternoon I have my second grad this week. I had North Island College yesterday, Carey High later today, and then Timberline tomorrow. And you look at all the young people graduating, and if I was recommending, my children have all gone to university and they have professions, but our youngest went through North Island College heavy-duty mechanic program and then eventually switched to become a engineering technologist and now a professional engineer. I would recommend they go into trades. I think there's a lot to offer there. Their job stability for the rest of their career is going to be way higher. Our demand for tradespeople to fix everything from screen doors to bulldozers to welding and computers and all that is huge, and it's growing. When you think of the liquefied natural gas projects that are being considered in British Columbia, I went to the LNG conference in Vancouver about a month ago, and the president of Shell Oil Worldwide said his biggest concern about doing a project in British Columbia is the lack of skilled tradespeople. That's the biggest concern. That's an amazing issue.
By coincidence, one of our volunteer camera operators here, Matt, has just been accepted into automotives at North Island College,
Very
starting
good.
in the fall.
You could have graduated 2 years from yesterday.
Yeah, yeah.
To give an example too, they had a booklet, of course, of all the grads, and they said at the beginning, if you see all the names there and there don't seem to be enough people going across the stage, it's because those people all have jobs.
Hi, Matt.
And there was nobody from the welding class, and there were like 35 names, not one was there. They're all working. It's like, whoops, where'd everybody go?
Yeah,
So the grad, instead of being 2 hours long, is about 45 minutes because everybody else was working.
Despite global warming, I think we're going to have cars for a long, long time.
We will.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I didn't plan that, but that's a great segue.
But the
What
other
is
thing,
your-
it doesn't have to be trades, nursing, anything that's in demand by society, go for it. But certainly trades. I took welding in the spring of 2011 at North Island College for 12 weekends, just for fun. As a retired old geezer, I went and took welding. I knew how to soda weld. I'm still not certified, but I know when I make it and drop it, it doesn't fall apart.
Good for you. Well, I was going to interject a question about global warming, but we have another question from the audience. So, Catherine, fire away.
Walter, you've always obviously been here longer than me, which is not too many people have been here that long, but can you tell me where you see Campbell River in 10 years from now? In terms of population and what's driving our city and the growth of the
Well, in my
community?
time, over the 3 years, we've gone from 35 to 36,000. So we've gained 1,000 people, roughly. That's the estimate. Give an example, our sewer system is sized for 64,000. We're probably going to be there within 15 years. So almost double where we are today.
So if we're
And
going to double
it's
in size, where will that population go in terms of the geographics of the area?
Well, I don't, back to politics. I don't think Area D is going to get passed. I've been opposed to it. The votes this Saturday, it's going to fail. We need to focus north, go north. The sewer plant is at Orange Point Road. The main reason it's there is because it's going to be in the middle of town. I think 30 years from now, Menzies Bay is going to look like Willow Point. The scenery is beautiful. They're really close to the boats going by. It's lovely to the north. We just have got to there's water out there already. We just need a sewer line out there. And development follows sewer and water.
And Campbellton will be the new downtown.
Campbellton will be the new downtown.
There you
It
heard
should be just a smooth transition. Most of council believes the downtown core is from Dogwood to the ferry. I think our downtown core is from the Maritime Heritage Center to the bridge and beyond.
The bridge over the Campbell.
The bridge over the Campbell, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we're looking too close. Dogwood to the ferry is very small. If we have a bigger view, if you think it, it'll eventually happen.
Yeah. So you expect the population to grow. Where will the jobs be?
If the LNG plant happens, you've got 500 to 1,000 doing construction for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
And then you've got a lot of people there doing, running it.
I see Campbell River as a transportation hub, and in a way it already is with the,
Right.
the boats and
The more
float planes.
We've got a bulge in the population of seniors coming here. Caring for seniors is a huge employer.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the best pay, and it's regrettable what's going on at the New Horizons because I think it's wrong.
Yeah.
But it's a great employer, and the seniors, we're all going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'll be there in 15 years or less, right? Somebody's got to look after me for a while. Boy, that'll be a task. But that's a great employer. And medical and retirement, ecotourism is huge. If we ever advertised, we're terrible at it. You do a good job of advertising Campbell River, but we don't advertise.
Where I see the growth in what we're doing, it's even the efforts that we put into it with no budget has reaped huge benefits.
Correct. I look at our whale watching ecotourism people. Some of them went to Europe to the world's largest tourism trade show this last winter, and they're booked up from from Europe. Europe doesn't even know about us. We don't need to advertise in Alberta. We need to advertise where the people haven't heard about us. The Europeans love bears. We got bears galore. Like
Even in Sims Creek, we have
even in
bears.
Sims Creek, you know, and
Yeah.
we got visitors right now from Fort McMurray. They look out in their backyard and there's 4 deer. They're all excited, and they're in Fort Mac. Like, it's pretty cool here.
What I'm seeing with the website Go Campbell River is we're seeing the most dramatic increase in the hiking pages.
Yep.
Those are Europeans.
Yep.
Because our hiking pages this year over the last year are up about 700 or 800%.
The other place I think the growth is, if you look in Vancouver and you got all these high-rise buildings, office buildings, but most of the people in those buildings are not doing anything that you couldn't do here.
Yeah.
They're probably sitting at a computer doing desk work.
Yeah.
They could do their desk work here and not have to commute from Abbotsford or Surrey or Aldergrove.
Like software design, game design.
Yeah, or whatever
Video.
they're doing, they could
Yeah.
do it here. If we went every year and got 10 businesses to relocate from Vancouver to here, they can join our rush minute, our whole 8 minutes to rush hour, and be part of us. And if they still have to go to Vancouver, they can fly there in 25 minutes.
Yeah.
We need to go there and just move 10 businesses a year. You're going to be pulling in 100, 200 people every year.
Well, we've got about 2 minutes left, and I got about 20 questions I could ask, but I'm going to do my usual curveball. Is there something you want to say?
Yeah, people should not ever forget when they watch our small town politics, our problems are tiny compared to the rest of the world. Just look at the news. Like, nobody's dropping bombs on us. We don't have terrorists. We don't have somebody picking on women or picking on some sect in our group. We live in a phenomenal country. And no matter how silly it gets in the papers and how silly it gets at City Hall, just remember, we got it really good compared to the rest of the world. And let's try to do what we can to help those folks. And if it means we have to bring a few more over here as immigrants, let's do that. But there's millions of people suffering in our world. And we should not lose the focus, no matter how silly we get here. It's important to remember that we need to help people in foreign countries as well. And let's do what we can.
Well, that's great. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for coming in to do this. And thank you, viewers, for watching. Thank you, audience. That was the first, and those are great questions, too. And, you know, one of the things we have is community television and Shaw TV North Island. It's on YouTube, too. And this open house today was about community access. And if you have something that you'd like to bring out through Shaw, you can contact Chaz Leckie here and Marjorie Greaves. And there's other people too. But this is CRTC willing for a while, community access, and it's a good thing. So thank you all for coming out. And thank you all for watching. And check us out on YouTube, and we'll be back too.